Good evening, trustees, staff, and fellow community members. My name is Josephine Luetke. I'm a Catholic school supporter here in Mississauga and a parishioner at St. John of the Cross. I'd like to sincerely thank you for voting against a motion to raise the pride flag last week. I especially want to thank those of you who may have been hesitant, but decided to heed the instruction of His Eminence Frank Cardinal Leo. You provided a noble witness to what it means to be obedient as Catholics. When in doubt, we defer to the magisterium. We listen to church authorities. I recognize that you're motivated by genuine concern for the students in your board, and I commend initiatives like putting the We All Belong banner in every school as a means of including every student while also evangelizing and catechizing and being consistent with the principles of our faith. Thank you. I know you face a lot of internal and external pressure from those who don't understand the teachings of the Church. Some apparently believe these teachings are in conflict with human rights, when actually, Church teachings provide us the full picture of human dignity and our corresponding rights. I think part of the problem is that a lack of support for the pride flag is being interpreted as a lack of support for those who might experience same-sex attraction or gender dysphoria, and that is not at all the case. As was established last week, it's not possible to fly flags representing the identities of every student in the board, let alone flags with concerning origins and associations. The beauty of the cross and the Sacred Heart of Jesus is that we may all find our identity in these symbols of profound meaning. All of us are sinners. All of us are children of God. Before anything else, all of us should define ourselves by Jesus' sacrificial love for us, and in response, we ought to conform ourselves to Christ. I'm still trying to embrace this message myself, to accept both Christ's love for me and my own cross, and to offer up my suffering. And so I can understand if this message seems strange or irrelevant to others. That doesn't mean that it doesn't bear repeating, quite the opposite. If some do not find the cross and the Sacred Heart of Jesus sufficient, then we must promote these symbols all the more. They are necessary. They offer healing to a broken world. Please take courage in knowing that Christians have been misunderstood in every age. John chapter 15, verses 18 to 19 promises, quote, "If the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. If you belong to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world," unquote. His Eminence Thomas Cardinal Collins said similarly, quote, "There are times when the presentation of Catholic teaching will clash with the views held by many in society, whether these relate to human sexuality, the sanctity of life, issues of social justice, or other deeply held beliefs. Those who are faithful to these teachings are often ridiculed, mocked, and excluded. Frequently, since the time of Jesus, Christian teaching has not aligned with currently prevailing opinions. While I am grateful that you have decided not to raise the controversial pride flag on any third flagpoles, I'd like to challenge you to go further. We heard last week that His Eminence Frank Cardinal Leo stands behind His Eminence Thomas Cardinal Collins' 2021 statement on pride flags. I know it's been quoted at length, but to reiterate, he said, quote, "Parents make a clear choice when they decide that their children will attend a Catholic school. They rightly expect that trustees, principals, teachers, all partners in education will ensure that Catholic teaching is presented, lived, and infused in all that we do. In that regard, the appropriate symbol that represents our faith and the inclusion and acceptance of others is the cross." Unquote. He also reminds us that, quote, "There is a belief among some that unless one embraces secular symbols, one cannot be inclusive or accepting. This is simply not true," unquote. In light of these remarks, I'd like to again appeal to trustees not only to refuse to fly the pride flag outside of schools, but also to prohibit the display of pride flags within schools, even if it's just during the month of June, because that is the month of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and just the month of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. If it's
Please, silence. You have to hear what the delegate's going to be saying.
If it's inappropriate to fly pride flags outdoors, it's inappropriate to display them indoors. Logically speaking, there's no difference. These flags confuse students about what the Church teaches about sex and sexuality. The pride flag does harm to students, it does harm to the reputation of Catholic schools, and it does harm to the Church. I see the backlash you are facing for being obedient to the church on the question of flying the pride flag. Nevertheless, I'm asking you to be
Time out.
consistent. Sorry, just because I was interrupted, if I
Wind
can
up.
finish. Nevertheless, I'm asking you to be consistent on the display
Wind
of
up,
such
please.
flags, even if there's a cost.
Thank
Second-
you. Thank you, your delegates. You are all good. And have anybody having any clarification questions to the delegates? Student trustee. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and through you, thank you for your delegation. In your delegation, you mentioned, and I quote, I'm just going to quote a section of the delegation, let alone flags with concerning origins and associations. My question to the delegate, what flags are you referring to and what concerning origins and associations?
Thank you for that question. I first delegated a couple of years ago, including that I went through the history of the pride flag. So I'm talking about the rainbow flag, the original pride flag, and I'm also talking about its subsequent variations. I understand that the rainbow flag is flown here. Also, the Progress pride flag has been at least found within schools, even though I kind of figure that that's not approved. But anyway, just speaking strictly of the rainbow flag, that was created by Gilbert Baker for the San Francisco Gay Pride Parade. Gilbert Baker was a drag queen. He was part of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, which is an anti-Catholic drag group. So the fact that the flag that he created would now be displayed in Catholic schools is actually very offensive. So that's part of its origins. Again, it was created for the Pride Parade, which again has sexual fetishes on display, simulated sex acts, nudity sometimes. And we see the pride flag continuously shown at drag shows, at pride parades, at nightclubs with, again, sexual activity happening inside of it. So I understand that some people are just interpreting it as a sign of inclusion, but that's not how it was originally created at all. I again would refer to my delegation from back in 2023 of June, in which I go through the detailed history of the rainbow flag.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I do have other questions of clarification, if I may.
Okay.
Thank you, and through the chair. Thank you, and through the chair. You mentioned in your delegation that the pride flag confuses and harms students. What is confusing about the pride flag and what harm does it cause to students?
So the Catholic Church is opposed to transgenderism and it's opposed to homosexual activity. So the pride flag promotes transgenderism and it promotes homosexual activity. So by displaying the pride flag in schools, that confuses students into believing that transgenderism and homosexual activity are promoted or at the very least accepted by the Catholic Church, which is not the case. And that also harms students, not only because transgenderism
Please, silence. You have to want to hear what the delegates going to be saying that. If you are making noise, you are clapping, everybody is excited, wait for all the excitement for the end of all the delegates finished. Thank you.
Furthermore, it harms students because transgenderism and homosexuality can be emotionally and physically harmful, but also spiritually harmful. Again, the church, in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, opposes homosexual activity. It says it cannot be condoned, it is sinful. Transgenderism was not as big a thing when the Catechism was created, but since then Pope Francis has spoken out extensively about the dangers of gender theory. And of course, as Catholics, we care not only about our physical bodies, our emotional realities, but our souls. And so if this separates one from God, and again, I said in my presentation, we're all sinners, but if this separates us from God, then that is harmful to us on a very deep, innermost level.
And my final follow-up, if I may.
Okay, go ahead.
Through the chair, understanding that the board is experiencing declining enrollment, do you believe that creating policies that are exclusionary in practice will have a negative impact on enrollment?
I disagree with the premise of the question. I do not think that they're exclusionary at all. As I said in my presentation, the cross and the Sacred Heart of Jesus are the most inclusive symbols on this planet, in this world. The word Catholic means universal. So following the teachings of the church, even when we can't understand them, as I acknowledge, that leads to a world where everyone belongs. So I think that does attract people to the Catholic school system. In fact, I know of a parent who was not able to delegate tonight, but he actually enrolled his daughter and pulled her out of the Peel District School Board because she was being bullied for a Christian. She's not actually even Catholic, but she's a Christian, and she found acceptance in the Catholic school board. So I think actually what makes us distinct and unique as Catholics is what attracts students to the board. In fact, if we became the same as the public school board, I would see no reason for parents to enroll their kids in this school board, because what's the difference between this school board and the public school board?
Thank you.
Thank you, Josephine.